also kind of has that element of being a character game where not just about the core fighting mechanics, but people want to see their character and see how they're portrayed in the story and how that plays out in the newest installment. So doing that for this game was quite a big hurdle. And also, we wanted to have more, but because of the dev cost restraints, but also it takes quite a long time to create all these characters for the game. So all these kind of dictated the number at the end. That said, though, we do hope to have more post-launch, but this is the starting roster. And I myself would add that another element that made it quite difficult was they were all created from the ground up this time for Tekken 8. So that's totally new. All the character models were redone, which was quite exciting because we were dealing with artists. Everyone's been making, for example, Jin Kazama for 20-some years now. But when you make the model from zero base, it's like little things are off, and you have to kind of fine-tune to make sure they look exactly like the character that everyone remembers. So there was quite a bit that went into the characters themselves.
I never even thought about that, but that's actually really great insight. So, okay, so you talk about this being more than just a fighting game. Put bunny ears on like all the characters?
そうですね。かなり
Yeah, so if you can imagine, Tekken 7 itself had a lot of customization options. So we've even increased it from there, the categories, etc., that you can equip. So in general, yes, you could most likely equip bunny ears to most of the characters, though there are some limitations in certain cases. For example, maybe a character has horns or something that might conflict with it. So we wouldn't say 100% on everyone, but in general, yes, that's the case. In addition to not just the look of your character, but the look of various elements of your game, the life gauges and the player panels, etc. There's a lot that you can do there. But not just that, the music itself can be customized. So we have a jukebox feature, which the fans really loved for the PS version of Tekken 7, but it's back again for Tekken 8, so you can select different pieces of music for various areas of the game.
I love that Tekken 8 seems to be really just showing so much love for the players. So in addition to that, we see that Arcade Quest is a new mode that's coming in. So can you share us some more details on what exactly this new mode is?
So yes, the Arcade Quest is a brand new feature for Tekken 8. We just want to be totally clear that this doesn't replace the story mode that people are used to, which portrays the actual in-game characters and the story arcs, the Mishimas, etc. This is totally separate from that. This is more about the player's story, and it's made to kind of recreate the arcade feel that Harada and myself experienced when we were, students, and many other people our age. I had a great time there. And we feel that kind of was the roots of what grew into what we see now as esports, right? It started off as that kind of competitive culture in the arcade. So people from our generation will instantly recognize that and feel nostalgic. But for younger people, maybe they didn't have the chance because arcades weren't as common as they are back then. So maybe it's the first time they're seeing a kind of a virtual arcade, and they can kind of see, oh, this is where my parents were hanging out and enjoying themselves. And also to understand a little bit more about that competitive culture. So you can tell that from between the story mode and also this new Arcade Quest mode, there's a great deal of volume there for one-player content. So, this new Arcade Quest mode, it lets you go through the mode, and as a player, you're kind of evolving, learning the basics of not only the new features of Tekken 8, but also Tekken in general, the gameplay, and kind of helps you learn the ropes. But not just that, there's a cool new feature also that's been implemented with ghost characters. So it's kind of this AI learning. Not only does it kind of tailor your opponents, so you'll see CPU opponents actually fight like real players. Maybe even like a copy of some famous player you've seen in an esports stream, etc. But not just that, as you evolve as a player and get better, this AI ghost of yourself, it mimics you. So if you drop a combo, it'll mimic that. It'll mimic all kinds of different aspects of your play. So you can see the AI ghost version of yourself get even more skillful as you as a player grow.
Okay. So that's good to know because my AI is definitely just going to be spamming one move constantly. So if you find that one, that is me, and I'm not even sorry about it. So actually, speaking of fighting styles, so could you go into more details about how guard damage will affect the overall strategy in Tekken 8? How does this change the dynamics of a fight?
Fighting games are unique in one aspect, especially that if you're able to block your opponent's attacks, then you negate all the damage, right? Usually. So this is unique in that, for example, first-person shooters or others, if you line up your attack, usually the damage happens. So this time the key concept for Tekken 8 is aggressiveness, right? So in order to kind of enhance this experience, one of the new mechanics is certain attacks will deal kind of recoverable damage to your opponent. So this kind of alleviates the instance where you see two people going back and forth and they're unable to kind of break out of that match, right? So this is supposed to kind of foster players to make them want to go on the offense and to rush down their opponent. So this is what we call the chip damage on when you deal the damage while they're blocking, right? And also this can be recovered and by doing various different actions. So there is a way to alleviate that, but it is designed to make the game more aggressive.
So speaking of unique elements within fighting games, what inspired the development team to create the brand new Heat system and revised Rage system? And how did you ensure it would resonate with longtime fans?
そうですね。鉄拳
With fighting games, it's quite interesting that to us, each installment of Tekken is quite different with the different changes we've made to the battle systems. And we feel that players feel the same way who are actually following the games closely. But for people who aren't into fighting games, a lot of times just because the perspective of the screen from a sideways view looks the same, they'll be like, oh, fighting games haven't changed in how many years. That's not the case, we think. Especially this time with the Heat system, it's designed for aggressive gameplay like we were saying, and it does many things. One of the main things is the inspiration was if you're watching some kind of martial arts match and you see maybe there's back and forth and there's no big moments, but then all of a sudden a certain punch will land and then the outcome of the match changes drastically, right? So that was kind of the thing that we were going after for the Heat system this time around, to create those kind of iconic moments within a match, not just for the people playing, but for the people who are spectating. And granted, the overall feedback we've gotten from both the CAT and then the closed test we did recently, it seems like overall the players really liked that new change and it felt new. We did get a lot of useful feedback, so we will be fine-tuning the game and changing it a bit after that, though. And just personally, I'd like to add one thing that, like Harada's mentioning, is the main core concept of it, but another cool thing I think about the Heat system is that each character is kind of unique in their moves and their playstyles and strategies, but then when the Heat system kicks in for each character, it goes even more. They get access to new techniques during the Heat state, or certain parameters like King, when he throws his opponents, they'll actually recover the Heat gauge. So there's a lot of things that make the characters even more unique when they're in the Heat state. So I think that's a really cool addition this time.
So cool. I can't believe you wanted to add more characters on top of all of that. That's actually crazy. I mean, this is going to be great. And players don't have to wait too long, right? When actually does this game drop?
It's coming January 26th, 2024.
Awesome. You heard it here. Thank you so much for speaking with us today. The Tekken 8 hits PC, PS5, and Xbox next year, and we'll be covering every hard-hitting moment right here on IGN as we count down for the days for it.
Woo! Now that was a deeper look at Tekken 8 with game director Harada-san. Now we know that that game will have a total of 32 characters, all built from the ground up.
I think it's a really smart way for them to start breaking in more people to the fighting game community.
Yeah.
It's trying to really capitalize, from what we learned in the interview, they're trying to capitalize on that feeling of older generations being able to go into the arcades, put a quarter down on the machine, and have next. Like, that just isn't a thing we really get anymore. No. And so they're trying to recreate that experience, and I'm very interested to see how this experiment turns out for them.
Yeah, I agree on that, because I'm definitely one of those nostalgia people from the days of the arcade that used to put my quarter down. And I feel like this does two things. It grabs an audience like me. And first and foremost, I'm more of a casual Tekken player. I'm not super hardcore into it. So this attracts me to want to come back and start playing again, right? Because this feels like a mode that not only going to get me from a nostalgia standpoint, but even from a more casual standpoint, you're not immediately jumping into the hardcore modes of having to play Tekken. It can kind of ease you in, understand the mechanics, and you can go from there.
In Japan, Tekken has a very long history in the arcade, and the arcade scene is a big part of its DNA. So I think this is as much for the Japanese audience as it is for everybody else. But I like it when games are having fun.
Yeah.
I love the vibe of it. I liked that they had what looked like a press conference with the individual customizable characters. That's a lot of fun. And it just it gives Tekken 8 a sense of joy
Yeah,
that I
and
really appreciate.
honestly, it's a great way to kind of just acknowledge the storied history that Tekken has of being an arcade first video game, a fighting game. You know, this is the first time in, like, I think in its almost 30-year history that you're not going to see this. This is a console first game. So it's nice for them to kind of acknowledge that whole, you know, the past that they have. And as Harada-san stated in the interview, this will not replace the core story mode. So if you're interested in that, you can still enjoy that as well. Now let's talk about a few other things. I want to talk about the heat system that's new to Tekken 8, but they also have returning, which is something that first originated in Tekken 6, and that was the rage mechanic.
Yeah.
The rage system.
Yeah, the rage system, you know, for anybody who's played since Tekken 6, you obviously know once your health reduces to a certain amount, you can activate rage and gives you that kind of bonus. It's kind of their rubber band mechanic. So if you're almost getting sweeped, you have a chance to, you know, if you find an opening, you can make use of that opening. The heat system looks really cool. I'm very excited to see how that plays out. I really love that how all the characters, the heat system is going to work different for them.
Yeah.
So everybody who's already in Tekken is always known for their very unique flavor and style of combat. The heat system is going to turn that up another.
Yes, it's very aggressive. So I'm kind of curious, how many people here were involved in the open beta? Did any of y'all get to play in the open beta?
I did not get a key.
Only me?
I did not
Only
get a
me?
key.
It's interesting. We just posted this from that interview. They were talking about how they were testing out the online, and as we all know, online is kind of a bugbear for a lot of fighting games. They've introduced rollback netcode and whatnot, and a lot of these games, and Harada has said that actually it's exceeded expectations for the closed beta network test, which is great. They want to improve the Wi-Fi play.
Yeah.
Jada, you've played a fair amount of Tekken. I'm curious, like, how have you found the online over the years?
You know what? I try to avoid Wi-Fi warriors as much as I can, but sometimes, you know, you're traveling and that's all you've got.
Playing on your Steam Deck?
Playing on my Steam Deck. I don't think I've actually tried Tekken on my Steam Deck yet. But I don't know. I'm a hardwired person first. I really hope that the Wi-Fi settings are getting better. Like I said, I didn't get to test the beta, so I still need to see it firsthand. But I did hear good things from my friends that were in the beta, so you know.
It was great. I'm one of your friends, and I can attest to it being.
I don't know if I
great.
can sign off on you being a friend.
Oh,
Just kidding.
Akeem's my friend.
We're friends, of course. We're friends.
The thing that I find interesting is to compare Tekken with Mortal Kombat, obviously, which is coming out, and it just really, Anyway, Mortal Kombat looks more accessible, I think.
All right, well, we're going to be throwing to a break. Coming up in a little bit, we're taking an extended look at Lords of the Fallen, and we have an exclusive trailer for Hellboy, Web of Weird. And we'll be back with more right after this.
Tune into IGN1 on your smart TVs for the latest news on your favorite releases, gameplay exclusives, and all the entertainment you can handle.
Cinefix on IGN1, your friendly Friday night home for film fanaticism.
You're watching The Weekly Fix, ready to fill you in on anything you may have missed in the world of gaming and entertainment.
Welcome to Should I Play This? This is what to watch here on IGN1.
Find it all in one place for free on IGN1.
They turned into a network. Who knew?
Be there. Be strong. Be fierce. Be better. Be different. Be winning. Be epic. Be you.
at Gamescom 23. Come and be everything at Gamescom 2023.
Hello, everybody. Now, we've got something special for you, an exclusive extended trailer for Hexworks' upcoming Souls-like action RPG, Lords of the Fallen. So get ready to spend some more time in the realms of Axiom and Umbral.
Possessed the metal for this, Crusader. You failed.
I look upon you with pity, my lost child. For you have been deceived.
Another sin.
They brand me evil. A tyrant. Yet I offer you something they will not. A choice.
Hello again, deathless one.
After all the time mankind have had to shape their own destiny, see what they have made of it. War, greed, hatred, suffering. Chaos.
Now you will know darkness, brother.
Look into the shadows, might be the shadows look back.
Ooh, now that was an extended look at Lords of the Fallen. Now let's just get right into it. Will this deliver us the first true next-gen Souls experience? And how excited are we for this one? Jada, I already know how you feel about it, but that was pointed towards you. That was pointed towards you, yes.
How do I feel about it, Akeem?
You think it's great. You think it's phenomenal. You think it's fantastic.
You're right. You're inside
but
my
I
head.
want you to go into detail.
You want me to go into detail?
Yes.
So I haven't got a chance to get hands-on with this yet, but from everything I've been seeing, it's an IGN first, so we've got tons of videos and coverage we've been covering. I just can't get enough of this game. The Axiom and Umbral worlds, that whole mechanic of having a lantern that you can hold up and look into the darkness. There's enemies that can attack you from that realm if they see you while you're doing that and pull you into this realm is a mechanic that I've not really experienced in a game before, so that's really cool. The fact that they're changing how death kind of works. So when you die in Axiom, you move to the Umbral realm, and then when you die, then you get the traditional lose all your currency, lose souls, whatever it ends up being in Lords of the Fallen. So I really like that. Kind of gives you that second chance to fight back mid-boss fight, because sometimes, you just like, I know I dodged that attack. I know I dodged it, but I'm hyped for it.
Yeah, same. Like I feel like the whole Axiom and Umbral world dynamic is really interesting. I was watching gameplay of someone that went into the Umbral world. They were alive, but in the Axiom world, they peered through and they saw a passage that was underneath the water. And then they died because they forgot. They were in the Umbral world and they died because then they were actually alive. And I like that dynamic.
But when they went back to the other realm that was flooded and they just drowned. Yeah.
Really amazing. Paris, I got to know what you think. What's your vibe on this?
I think
you're on board.
Again, I think as a Souls fan, you're going to be in on this day one because I think of exactly what you're talking about. This is adding a new wrinkle to the genre, right? A new gameplay mechanic to take advantage of. My concern would be when it's coming out.
Okay.
Yes.
October's already crazy. It's dropping right in the middle of that. I just wonder, the dedicated Souls fans are going to be there day one. We already know
100%.
that.
Yeah.
But I think people that are on the fringe, is that the right time for it to be coming out? Now, everything that we saw in this extended trailer, the IGN first, the other previews I've seen, it all looks great. This all looks top tier. I'm just concerned about it attracting a new audience into it. Will it have the breathing room that it'll need to be able to do that?
Yeah. Also, there's a lot coming out around that time too. But I have a pointed question towards you, Kat. I'm kind of curious. Well, you all can answer this. It's I'm pointing at you. That's what I mean. Whenever I say a pointed question, I mean because I'm pointing at you. Now, I know we don't want to kill it, but do we think this will be an Elden Ring killer?
You cannot kill something by being so similar to it.
I mean,
we've been asking this since the days of Doom, and it was always something totally different coming out and shocking us. And maybe Lords of the Fallen will not be that. It's interesting because Elden Ring, of course, was open world. This is more curated. This is more straightforward. One thing that I hope for with Lords of the Fallen, Elden Ring is gorgeous. And I don't mean like graphically, I mean that often has scenes of pure beauty. And Lords of the Fallen really leans into the darkness. It reminds me a little bit of Shadow of War or Shadow of Mordor a little bit in terms of the overall aesthetic. A lot of reds, a lot of browns and that kind of thing. I hope it has moments of beauty to offset that. That's my main hope.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping for that too. There's probably not going to be any beauty in the Umbra world, though. I'm gonna just say that right now.
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, Akeem. So I mean, it's all depending on your own tastes. I'm sure there's some people out there. This is their aesthetic. They find this beautiful.
So Hollow Knight could be beautiful, but it was also very dark as well.
Yes,
in many ways.
Well, let's talk about our tastes. So we have 10 starting classes. What do we think about the starting classes in this one? We have, Black Feather Ranger, Condemned, Dark Crusader, Exiled Stalker, Hollow Knight. There's so many different ones. 10 to be specific. What do we think about the starting classes in this game?
I think it's really cool. That, I don't think any Souls fan is going to be super surprised by the type of classes. There's a bunch of classes that are based around magic. There's the pyromancy class. There's the more kind of, I think, like holy kind of based magic. Then you've got the heavy weapon. You've got the kind of like swords and shields. You've got the great swords. You've got all those types of different weapons. The big thing for me around this is really seeing how these kind of stand out, how these archetypes are going to kind of stand out. And remember, these are just your starting points for your characters. You can roll a pyromancer and get 5 levels in and be like, I don't really like fire magic. I don't know anybody out there that doesn't like fire magic, but you could make the swap and be like, I'm just going to roll around with a big old mace or a club and do all those types of things. Paris, what do you play the Souls games? What's your go-to?
I'm fringe.
Okay.
I'm more of a, if I were to play this, I'd be like a Hollow Knight. I'm gonna come in more as a tank type of character. Now I do have a side question I would like to throw out along those lines. I'm curious more about the boss variety that we're going to see in this, because typically when you're in a Souls game, that's what brings you back, are the different type of bosses you're going to see, type of challenges that they're going to provide to you, etc. So that'll be interesting to see once the game is out, how diverse that's going to be.
Yeah, they mentioned during the trailer, they mentioned like chaos, rage, suffering, and there was a couple other ones, greed, and hatred. I'm wondering if those are kind of like the overarching elements for these big bosses, like if they're theming them around that, which would be a cool little thing.
So it's a secret Dante's Inferno.
Yeah, very much, yes.
Basically.
Just a few less circles to go through to get to hell. And I think one of the big things for me is, we didn't talk about it a whole lot, but co-op in this game is much easier than any other Souls game out there.
Yeah, explain that to us. Like, how so?
Yeah, to summarize it real quickly, basically, there's like, I believe they're called vestiges. They're basically the bonfires of this game. You can go in and you can just kind of like invite other players, your friends, or your friends can join in on you from these points, and they stay with you as long as they want to stay. It's not an Elden Ring like, hey, we killed this one little boss, I'll summon you back by consuming a gnawed finger or a rotted finger, because that's what, FromSoft likes to do. They like us to eat rotted fingers to bring our friends to the party.
Oh man, well, so many good points here. Especially Paris, I sense what you're saying. I know the Souls fans are going to be there for this, but for people that aren't super big on Souls games, with everything else that's coming out, it might have a hard time, buying into this. But it still looks beautiful.
Yeah, it does.
And it's a beautiful, beautiful picture. Speaking of pictures, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a trailer has got to be several billion at least, right? So instead of me telling you how sick the new Hellboy game looks, let's take a look for yourself. Go.
So, what are we dealing with here?
4 psychic spikes measured at over 180 BPUs. Italy, Russia, Scotland, and the US. Your job is to find Roberts and investigate possible links between this location and the spikes before they cause any further repercussions.
That's a fun word.
Here goes nothing. I'm gonna be sore. Definitely not Kansas. Good night.
The further you travel the world, the closer you will come to that which corrupts us all.
I said stay down! And we're done! Ow! That's all for you! Hey! Oh, come on! That hurt!
That was Hellboy Web of Weird. Now, this is an original story in partnership with Dark Horse Comics. Mike Mignola, the creator, is also attached to it, which is awesome. And well, what do we think about that? Like, first off, the graphics, I gotta say, I love the cell shading. It really is reminiscent to the graphic novel. What did y'all think of this? Paris, let me start with you.
I think from a visual standpoint, it looked phenomenal. To your point, the cell shading on this. I've been a somewhat big fan of Hellboy over the years, so to see this come into the game this way, if they can just nail that Hellblade-esque type of story, depending on what they're going to do here, I think this will be a great addition.
Supposedly the stories surrounding the Butterfly House said to tie around multiple independent stories into one, so we'll see how well those kind of multiple stories merge into one. I hope they're not getting too ambitious with it, because I also like Hellboy. I'm not a huge fan, but I do like seeing Hellboy in the landscape of our content.
Yeah, no, this is being developed by Upstream Arcade, which I think honestly they were perfect for this job, because one of their previous games, West of Dead: The Path of the Crow, is very reminiscent to that, of this particular style that we're looking at, this cell shaded style that we're looking at here. I'm honestly glad they went this direction and not the direction of the movies, just because again, like I'm pretty sure they're catering to the old school graphic novel fans for this. What do we think about the combat system, Kat? What's your take on this?
It's funny because when I was watching them play, my first thought was Mad World. Does anybody remember Mad World?
I love me some Mad World. Back on the Wii.
Back in one of the OG Platinum games on the Nintendo Wii. That one was a lot more violent, and it was also black and white with splashes of red. But for whatever reason, maybe it's just the perspective, the movement of the actual combat and everything. That was my first thought. I think that sort of the pacing of it makes it look a lot more, shall we say, tactical. And I think that's kind of fun, actually, because so many games are very much super fast-paced, hit them and everything. So I like to think a lot more.
I hope you're right, because it definitely, the combat didn't look smooth to me. It looked a little clunky, but I imagine that is just based on whatever combat system they're using. I need to see more, and I need to get hands-on with this before I can make a better judgment on it.
I think that's all valid and fair. Just got to get more hands on.
Honestly, I wonder if that clunkiness is kind of like a creative direction that they took, maybe. Kind of like, we've seen Into the Spider-Verse where it's kind of jittery in movement. Again, this is a video game, so it could be interpreted as like it's just clunky and maybe it just needs to be polished a little bit more. But Hellboy, Web of Weird, good stuff. Now, coming up, we've got some brand spanking new gameplay and details on The First Descendant, plus an exclusive extended look at Warhaven and Killing Floor 3 right here on Gamescom Studio opening night live. But right now, we need to take a very quick break, so stick around.
IGN Playlist is the best way to track your game collection. Now you can even import your entire Steam library to Playlist, making it easier than ever to review games, show off your collection of the world, and finally chip away at that massive backlog you keep meaning to get to. IGN Playlist, check it out.
Welcome to Super Debatable. When you got big takes on superheroes as hot as ours, well, you need a place to vent them.
And that's exactly what we'll be doing week after week on Super Debatable, arguing over the most divisive topics facing fans.
The MCU, that multiversal mess peaked years ago. It's all downhill from here.
James Gunn and Peter Safran should absolutely nuke the Snyderverse. We could argue about this all day.
And we will. Join us on Super Debatable Fridays on IGN. Want the ultimate IGN experience? Check out IGN Plus. Members get exclusive deals and giveaways, ad-free browsing, unlimited tracking on IGN Maps, discounts at the IGN store and with IGN partners, and best of all, free games. Get 30 days of IGN Plus for just $1. Head to plus.ign.com.
Hello, we're back and you're watching Gamescom right here on IGN. Now later on, we've got new gameplay for the upcoming fantasy combat game Warhaven and an interview with the game's producer. But right now, we're talking with the developers of the futuristic shooter, The First Descendant. Let's take a listen.
The First Descendant is a gritty and stylish looter shooter that pits you and your friends against hordes of deadly enemies in a fight for survival. Well, for the human race. So yeah, absolutely no pressure. Here to tell me all about it is Min-seok Ju, director of The First Descendant. 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
So I'm gonna jump right in. So can you set the stage for us? When and where does The First Descendant take place? And who do players control and what exactly is at stake?
First Descendant.
All right, first of all, The First Descendant takes place in a virtual place called Ingress. So the players will be playing the characters called Descendants with special powers, and they will be fighting against another enemy called Vulgus that try to invade the Ingress world. And these Vulguses are from another world called Clippus, and they try to invade the Ingress by opening a void and a dimensional portal. And when they open the void, another threat called the Colossus and unknown beings, they come to another great threat for humanity and also the Vulgus. So it will be a story where the players play the Descendants, and they will fight both the Vulgus and fight against the huge Colossus bosses.
Awesome. Okay, so what was the development process like creating this in Unreal Engine 5?
We've been developing The First Descendants by using Unreal Engine 5, and we've been using the latest techniques like Lumen. And we're trying to make a looter shooter game that outstands all other genres by the highest graphics. And we are very aware that a lot of users are concerned about optimization when we are using Unreal Engine 5. But yeah, we are keeping our developments to make that optimizations.
Amazing. I mean, the game looks beautiful. So, yeah, tell us about the mission and the world structure. How big are the maps here?
Yes, we have various missions and maps, and in each areas and fields, the players will be encountering a lot of missions. And during our crossplay open beta, you can experience a lot of missions during the fields. And there will be more contents and more missions at our launch point. And as you know, we're a game type that you have to play again and again the missions over and over to get more items and get stronger. So we expect a lot of players to spend a lot of their time in the field missions, and we expect them to encounter other players, and we expect them to make friends and form community.
Awesome. So, in speaking about the community, can you go into some detail about how the free-to-play business is going to look like for the first Descendant? Can you tell us a little bit about the business model here with microtransactions versus season passes, or what you might have in store?
기본적으로
Yes, the first Descendants is a free-to-play game. We will be introducing battle passes and cosmetic features, and maybe items that could help your growth and help your convenience. And we are very well known that a lot of players are wondering how the business model will go, and we basically want a lot of users to come and play our game. So we don't want to pressure the users by the business model. Yeah, for example, battle passes will have free items for all the users as well. And for the details, we will show later on.
So, please explain how weapon customization will work and how it'll affect combat strategies in the game.
퍼스트 디센던트
So in the first Descendants, you could modify weapons by using modules. For example, you could put modules on the weapon and make it shoot faster or have greater damage or extend the bullet rounds. So we wish that our users find their playstyle and find their own weapon and find their own customizations and make a play that fits their playstyle. Additionally, I want to talk about customizing. Rather than putting modules in weapons, we could put modules for the characters as well. And we have a lot of skills for the characters. And when you put a module in, you could change that type of skill and change it as well. So other than the weapons, we want the users to find modules to match their play.
So will defeating bosses unlock specific modules then that you can add to your guns or your player's customization?
Yeah, there'll be modes called Void Intercept Battles. And in that Void Intercept Battle, there will be huge bosses. And when Descendants defeat the Colossuses, they will be rewarded with rare ultimate modules and customizing parts. And the items that fall in from the Void Intercept battles are very different from items that fall from the normal field. For example, you could get ultimate modules from beating the bosses that can maybe when you roll and you could get your rounds charged up right away. And another thing is when you beat the boss, you can open an amorphous material that you have. And when you open an amorphous material, you can get items that help you research for a new Descendant or ultimate weapons singly, or make a squad and go challenge for the Void Intercept battles. And they would get more higher items and get stronger.
Okay, so this is a great lead into my last question. So with all these elements, and let's say there are going to be players who finish the game really fast, unlock every Descendant. So how are you going to keep this gameplay fresh for those players? Are there going to be DLCs that maybe expand the story or add new Descendants in?
We will be having continuous live updates. What we are thinking right now, we are trying to have live updates as in part of seasons. So when we have new seasons, we'll have new descendant characters, we'll have new bosses, we'll have new weapons. And with each season, we'll require different metas. We'll be changing the systems to have contents that could last for the users to play.
So when can players expect to play this crossplay beta?
네, 저희는
Yes, we're having the crossplay open beta from September 19th to the 25th. So we're supporting the game from PlayStation, Xbox, and also PC. And we've made so many changes from the last Steam beta, so we want a lot of users to be interested, and we want tons of users joining our crossplay beta.
I have to ask, is the bunny armor in this beta 그 토끼 armor 있어요? 이 베타에?
Of course.
I'm playing it for sure. Thank you. All right, thank you so much. That was the First Descendant coming to PC and console soon. For all things The First Descendant, be sure to stick right here with IGN.
All right, now that was a look at what's new in The First Descendant right here on Gamescom Studio Opening Night Live. And in just a second, we're going to talk about some of the highlights from Opening Night Live. But first, the biggest video game event on the planet also cares about the planet. Now, this year's Gamescom Goes Green initiative has made some huge leaps forward. Not only is this year's core event 100% climate neutral, it's also running on 100% renewable energy. Meanwhile, the Gamescom force continues to grow thanks to donations from attendees. And in addition to participating in Gamescom Carbon Offset Program, exhibitors are doing their part by building more sustainability using portions of their booths and avoiding single-use material. Now, best of all, Gamescom has teamed up with the UN's Playing for the Planet initiative to present the Green Studio of the Year award during Opening Night Live, helping encourage sustainability across the games industry. Now, find out more at playingfortheplanet.org. And of course, for everything else going on with Gamescom year-round, you can stay up to date by following the official accounts on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. Now, coming up, we've got a look at the upcoming action game Warhaven, followed by a behind-the-scenes peek at The Killing Floor 3. And later, we take a very chill and relaxing train ride in station to station. Okay, let's jump into First Descendant. Now, it's a free-to-play, a third-person co-op looter-shooter RPG. 10 different Descendants built in Unreal Engine 5. What did we think about this one?
So there's going to be more Descendants we'll be able to pick from. I think there's 3 more that they've kind of like somewhat unveiled, but they haven't revealed all the details for. I think this looks interesting. I don't know if it's enough to get me in right off the bat right now, but I'm seeing a lot of elements that I do enjoy when it comes to looter shooters. It seems to have a nice variance of the different characters, the different classes. That's going to really require you to work in co-op when you're taking out these giant colossi. I don't know how I feel about some of like the glowing things on the colossi to attack. I understand you've got to make that like very obvious for clarity, but I think there's also ways to do it to where it's not so just like distracting kind of. But I think it looks cool. I think hopefully there's some of these big colossi battles have some like raid mechanics like you'd see in like a Destiny or something. If it's got that type of stuff, I'll probably at least give it a shot.
Yeah, Paris, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, for me, this looks like Destiny and Outriders got married and had a baby.
Yeah.
That's what this looks like to me.
That was a Descendant. It was
there you go. There you go. Right there in the name. But no, this looks good. This is you know, I'm a huge looter shooter guy. Like I love Destiny, I love The Division, I loved Outriders, things of that nature. So seeing this is right along the lines of that, and to the point that you were just making. My only 2 concerns I would have right now would be, I want to see what the end game looks like for this kind of game, which would be raids, things like that, where being more cooperative, you know, more complex things that you have to take down. And then it would be, since this is free to play, what is the MTX going to look like on this? As long as they keep the pay to win element out of it, which I'm sure most developers are smart enough to do in this day and age, I think this will be fine. I think this has a chance to grab an audience, especially people that are familiar with Destiny and the Division, things like that, to at least give it a try. And if the gameplay loop is good enough, in-game strong enough, I think this can build an audience.
I think they said that the microtransactions are all cosmetic
Right,
based,
right.
so we'll see what that exactly
means. I think everybody these days needs to
sometimes-
say that up to
But
that.
sometimes those cosmetics are very expensive. It
Yes.
takes a lot of grinding, and people get unhappy about it.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, to what Paris said, I feel like my fear for this game is the fact that, you know, people might look at it and think about a game that it reminds them of. Like, this is a new property, and of course, you know, it is very reminiscent of other games, you know, in genre. I mean, how do you captivate that audience, though? That's my question.
Well, that's why I brought up the end game,
Yeah.
because that's what gets you to stick around.
Absolutely,
I mean, because we've seen other looter shooters basically come and go over the past few years, and it's always, you'll have a great start. Oh man, this is fun. I'm having a great time with this. But then we get into month 3, month 6, month 9 of what we're doing. I'm like, well, what's next? What else? What is the new challenge that you're giving me, other than I'm just repeating the same gameplay loop over and over? So that'll be the challenge that this will have, where they have something compelling enough in the end game to keep the more advanced players sticking around.
And I know go ahead.
I think the gameplay has to feel good. I think that one of the reasons that people have stuck with Destiny as long as they have is that it has first-in-class actual shooting.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a big one for this one. And will it have bullet sponge bosses? Will I mean, it has grappling hooks. Will the actual movement feel really, really good?
Yeah.
Will the classes complement one another in ways that are fairly deep? Will it lean into the kind of the wickification of gaming, where people are going to be thinking a lot about their builds and the actual individual loot? That's going to be ultimately what keeps people playing. That's what kind of leans into what you're talking about with the end game. The other thing is, I really hope they lean into the aesthetic and making it look fun, making it look different. We were talking about the bunny ears. That's cute. I like that. Lean into that.
Like it was interesting seeing, like, in this dystopian world, there was one of the descendants that was just jumping around in the pool over there. Having a good time.
I think that's called a lake when it's outside.
Is that what it's an outside lake,
maybe
right?
Some sort of natural swimming
some sort of
pool.
natural water.
Well, I mean, it looked like a puddle to me. It just looked like an oversized puddle. Anyways, let's talk about the customization, because you can customize your player and your weapons, and you can get rare modules when you defeat one of the colossi. Well, what do we think about the customization in First Descendant?
I think I need to see. They haven't really shown off what it is. They talked a little bit about what it could be and a few elements. The big thing for me is, how far can we push the system? Am I able to do things that kind of break it, you know, to find these cool builds? And then also, am I going to get loadouts? Because nothing is worse than scrapping a whole build for a different thing to try something new, and then it not being able to go back easily and wasting a bunch of time in menus instead of playing the game and trying what works.
I think the secret might still be the grappling hook, like just the mobility, the movement. That could end up being really fun. Funnily enough, the game that came to mind, I already mentioned one Platinum game. Here's another one, Vanquish.
Yeah.
Another game that was heavy on movement and mobility. And if they can nail something like that, they could have something really intriguing, actually.
Yeah, like, so, you know, for a game like this, I think, you know, keeping a game like this fresh is definitely important. Like Paris was talking about, like, the end game, and they mentioned, like, continuous updates for this. But my last question for this is, do we think there's enough space in this game category to keep the interest among fans and gamers of this particular genre?
Sure. If it's really good, people will move over, because so many of these games like Destiny have been around for so long at this point.
That's true.
So people are sort of desperate for a really, really good service game. It's just that it's so hard to keep those going because it's so easy for the community to turn toxic. So it's a challenge.
Yeah. Well, let's hope the First Descendant community stays fresh. We'll see. Now, coming up next, we've got a brand new look at Warhaven. Right after this quick break, stick around. Gamescom Studio Opening Night Live continues after this.
Behind every game, movie, and TV show you love is a wild, crazy, and sometimes unbelievable story.
No one is just black and white.
From revealing the secrets behind your favorite franchises to solving a legendary video game mystery,
I'm coming for you.
IGN Inside Stories gives you a peek behind the curtain.
If people come to the game now and see what's going on there, I think they'll be surprised.
Join us as we dive into hyper-dedicated fan bases, worldwide phenomenons, and the most incredible untold tales in games and entertainment.
I said, wait a minute, that doesn't sound so good.
It was definitely not what I expected in the best way.
Inside Stories, available now only on IGN.
And I was like, holy shit, we're gonna do this.
IGN Playlist is the best way to track your game collection. Now you can even import your entire Steam library to Playlist, making it easier than ever to review games, show off your collection of the world, and finally chip away at that massive backlog you keep meaning to get to. IGN Playlist, check it out.
Hey, welcome back to Gamescom Studio Opening Night Live right here on IGN. Now, coming up next is an extended look at Warhaven, the upcoming medieval fantasy combat game. And right after that, we'll talk with the developers to check it out.
Shall be branded as traitors to the crown and banished from the land. The house disbanded and its conspirators put to death.
When the king took my parents' heads, he imagined his throne saved.
Look, you're not ready, kid. Not yet. Come.
But even traitors can be reborn on the battlefield.
You're too late, fool! The king is dead! And you're nothing! Nothing, you hear?
king shall never find peace. Not in life. Or in death.
If you've ever read up on medieval historical battles and thought, hey, I would have done a way better job than those guys, we have some great news. Warhaven is the brand new medieval multiplayer game that lets you travel back in time to prove it. Here to tell me all about it is Eun-Seok Lee, director of Warhaven. 안녕하세요. 반갑습니다.
안녕하세요. 반갑습니다. 이은석입니다.
So I have my first and fun question. Would you say Warhaven is like Battlefield, but with swords?
Yes, it's a straightforward question. It's a bit direct, but I can say yes. Warhaven is Battlefield with swords.
So how does the transformation into an immortal work in-game? And what strategies can players employ to leverage this feature?
네, 저희 게임에서
So we wanted to deploy immortals into our game because we wanted to provide some kind of alt experience that other games might have. But before, we had a system where you had to fight and accumulate battlefield points to actually transform into immortals. But this time around, during early access, you'll be able to play as an immortal anytime, so you can transform on the battlefield whenever you want. So every player will at least have one chance to transform into any immortal of their choice at the time of their choice during battle. Some players might think they need to transform into an immortal at the end of a match, right before the ending is coming. But some players might think, oh, I'll transform right at the beginning of the match so that I can dominate the field first. So that's one of the fun points that players can consider during the game.
Yeah, I'll definitely be one of those players doing it in the beginning. With the game being free to play, what's your approach to in-game purchases and how are you making sure they won't affect the game's balance?
네, 저희는 기본적으로는
So yes, that's a really good question. I think a lot of players would be interested in how microtransaction in Warhaven works. We can say that there will be those types of features in the game, but however, none of them will be only. So you get to choose what you want to buy and how you want to look in game. That's a good thing. And we'll also have Warhaven's unique twist on what you call a battle pass that we've seen in different games as well. It's basically Warhaven's mix of a battle pass plus Monopoly. So you get to do conquests and exploration across a huge map while also getting in-game rewards for that. So that's, I think, something that players will really enjoy.
Have there been any updates to Warhaven coming to consoles? I know there was a last post saying that, you'd be considering this, but I wanted to know if there were any official updates yet.
콘솔 개발에
So yes, there's been a lot of news about whether Warhaven is coming to consoles, and we're looking into it. That's all I can say for now, but keep your eyes peeled in the future, please.
So how many maps will be available at launch?
During early access, we will be providing up to 5 maps initially, but there will be different modes that you can play on these different maps. Therefore, we will have more than 10 overall modes and maps for you to play on.
Okay, so I have a question about the amount of people you can have on your teams. Are we able to team up with a full party of 16 players at some point? I know currently it's only about 4 players in a squad.
So we've made some changes from the Steam Next Fest to early access. And during Steam Next Fest, we initially had, 16 versus 16 players, but we've changed that currently to 12 versus 12 players. And we've also changed the number of people that can be on one squad. So during SNF, it was 4 people to a squad, but now it's 3 people to a squad. So you can team up with at least 2 other friends of yours, bring them into Warhaven, and fight in groups of, 4 squads. So 3 per squad, and then, 4 squads for each team.
So this might already be in the game, but I'm not entirely sure with the new update. But will there be a parry added to gameplay at launch?
다른 게임들과 비슷한 그
So when you say parry, I don't know what sword fighting gamers might expect from that word. They've played a lot of different games, such as Sekiro or For Honor, other games. But in our game, we do have a parry mechanism that is a bit different, maybe, than the other games, and it will give you an advantage in fighting. If another soldier comes at you with their sword and you have to block it, that will, affect whether you die or live. So yeah, there's going to be a mechanic in the game.
Okay, yeah. So in the most recent beta, we saw some game modes get taken away from the playlist. Will those be returning in the full release?
During early access, we will have a few modes that some players might already be familiar with. We'll have Onslaught, which is basically your team has to advance into the enemy's territory and you have to push forward. And you have to stop them from pushing back, basically. We'll also have Dominion, which will be conquering basically different control zones. You'll either have the option of choosing between 1 control zone or 3 control zones. And we'll also have one of our internal favorites, which is Arms Race. It's protecting a war machine from one goal to another goal while fighting enemies. Some of the players initially who have known Warhaven until now, they might think the mode's rules were a bit difficult, but we've simplified them down so that everyone can enjoy them more easily. Our default playstyle is 12 on 12, but we've also added a new mode, which is 6v6, and that will be for Team Deathmatch and Capture the Flag modes, which everyone loves.
Okay. What was the reasoning for removing ally collision and directional swing?
네. 그 아군끼리의
So yes, you pointed out a good point. During SNF, people did notice that ally collision was not in the game. So we did hear their feedback. A lot of people were saying they didn't like that feature. So we did bring it back for early access. And I hope that's good news for players who are looking forward to it. Initially, the reasoning why we removed it is because we thought when each player uses their skills, no one wants anyone else to come in their way. But I think that wasn't what players wanted. I think they wanted a more realistic experience of having to collide with the enemies, having to push allies out of the way as well. So yeah, we brought it back.
So I have to ask, is Warhaven still slated for release later this year?
That Warhaven is coming as early access on the 21st of September this year.
Cool. Thank you so much for that. I'm sure players will be very thrilled. Eun-seok, thank you so much for speaking with us. 너무 감사합니다.
네, 감사합니다.
I can't wait for Warhaven. You can play Warhaven when it hits early access this fall. Until then, for all things video games, keep watching IGN.
All right, that was a look at Warhaven, the free-to-play PvP medieval fantasy combat game. Let's talk about how excited Jada is to bash skulls in with hammers.
You know how that is one of my favorite pastimes.
Yeah.
When it comes to video games.
Well, hopefully that's the only time that you pass the time doing that particular action. But no, what did you think about Warhaven?
Warhaven looks cool. I'm a little interested to see how the swap from 16 on 16 to 12 on 12 is going to change the dynamic of the game. I think it'll be easier to get a squad together. I think it's a lot easier to get 2 than friends together, extra friends instead of 3 extra friends to form a squad, just by the fact of them being numbers and less people to corral and schedules as we all get older, and trying to find time to play all these games together is tough. But I think it looks good. I'm very interested to see with this next beta they're doing, what the reincarnation as the Immortals, and see how that is when it's more of a center point for the combat, because more people are going to just get access to it automatically, unlike the traditional gameplay is going to be. It'll be interesting to see how that kind of all functions out.
Yeah. Paris, what was your take on this?
To me, this looks like now a 12v12 For Honor. In a way.
Yeah.
That's
Stella said Battlefield with swords.
Yeah.
I mean, however you want to interpret it, yeah.
I mean, it looks interesting to me. I mean, it's not necessarily something that I personally would jump into day one. I think I still need to see more. I absolutely see the importance of beta testing this out and trying to make sure that you're properly balancing it. And to your point about going from 16 down to 12, I think that is actually a good thing because it's going to allow more full matches and easier to get people together. To your point, And if I'm not mistaken, there is a battle pass element to this
Yeah,
as
they
well.
said Battle Pass mixed with Monopoly.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to put up hotels all over. You guys can come in
and you're well. Actually, we can't pass go.
You can't.
So
No.
if you put up Monopoly in there, but no, this is. I mean, like from what I was looking at. For my taste, this is a bit chaotic for me. So I'm glad they kind of dialed it back a little bit. Kat, what was your read on this?
I'm sort of surprised that the games like this, there aren't more games like this that have been really, really successful. I mean, obviously we've had the aforementioned For Honor, we've had Chivalry, things like that. I think that there's a sort of hunger for fantasy, grand action, team-based combat. And so in that respect, I'm definitely willing to give it a chance. I'm excited for the inevitable crossovers that they end up doing. So we're just going to start getting Goku in here for some reason.
Well, you think those are the type of crossovers you think they meant? Or
wow, Peacemaker, what's he doing here?
Like, how did he travel
The
to
bride
this
from
time?
Kill Bill will
That'd
be
be
in it.
amazing, actually. Now, this has a 6v6 mode for Team Deathmatch. And some other modes. What are some of the elements that we think gamers will be most excited to experience with Warhaven?
I mean, I think everybody's a fan of Team Deathmatch, just brawling in a big arena.
Yeah.
Capture the Flag is always a good one, as they said. I don't know. I think they might be overemphasizing everybody's love of Capture the Flag. I was like, I enjoy it, but I don't know if I would ever put Capture the Flag as like my pinnacle mode in a game. But yeah, I mean, I think seeing what the deathmatch modes kind of look like, I think that's gonna be for me, because I think that's where you're gonna get the biggest spectacle, because everybody's gonna be fighting, so more people are gonna be reincarnating as these immortals, and so and then it's just kind of keep escalating bigger and bigger. You know what kind of really reminds me of is Star Wars Battlefront, to where you could reincarnate as the Jedi or as as Han and all these different things, and give you those kind of bigger power bonuses. It reminds me a lot of that kind of formula.
So you control the control points similar to, we were just talking about Battlefield, right?
Yeah.
I always thought that was the purest form.
The
of,
Dominion kind of mode.
Yeah. Battlefront didn't really have that. It sort of had that, and it had these multi-phases and everything. It got too complicated. Keep it simple. That's what I always say with these kinds of games.
Yeah.
Let the players make it complex.
Like, I honestly, for me, I haven't played a game like this since the days of like Dynasty Warriors.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it'll be interesting to play this now as something similar to that now as an adult, because I don't know. There's just a lot going on right now on the screen at once, and so I kind of get like intimidated when I come across games like this. But I mean, I'm definitely gonna check it out if y'all will join me.
I like multiplayer Dynasty Warriors. That's kind of fun, actually. It's a cool idea. So that means that we need to start getting Dragon Quest versions of this and Gundam versions of this. Let's go.
Yeah, definitely. Give me some Gundams.
Now, there is, I believe they mentioned there's a beta coming up, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Does anyone here plan on taking part in that and kind of?
I'll at least check it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an early access. It's starting September 21st.
Early access, yes.
But yeah, it's gonna PC, Steam, so.
I think I'm more likely to play this than First Descendant just because I'm more competitive than I am cooperative. I do want to destroy all of you. I'm sorry.
Unbelievable.
See, I'm more cooperative, but I will crush people when they need to be crushed.
All right, well, that's good to know. But please don't crush me. I have a job to do. We all have jobs to do right now. Okay, well, we need to take another quick break, but we still have so much more to talk about right here on Gamescom Studio Opening Night Live. Stay tuned.
Yes, you! Do you have FOMC? Fear of missing Gamescom? Relax. Gamescom is everywhere you want. Gamescom now. Register now.
Tune into IGN 1 on your smart TVs for the latest news on your favorite releases, gameplay exclusives, and all the entertainment you can handle.
Cinefix on IGN 1, your friendly Friday night home for film fanaticism.
You're watching The Weekly Fix, ready to fill you in on anything you may have missed in the world of gaming and entertainment.
Welcome to Should I Play This? This is what to watch here on IGN 1.
Find it all in one place for free on IGN 1.
They turned into a network. Who knew?
The Cinefix Top 100. A list so secretive even we don't know what movies are on it or where they rank.
What do you mean you don't know?
Each episode will reveal one of the movies.
Did I rush it? Felt like I rushed. That was good. I liked it.
Talk about why it belongs and finally find out where it ranks.
Are you not entertained?
Are any of the movies we've shown here even on the list? I have no idea, and it drives me crazy. Join us as we find out on the Cinefix Top 100, Mondays starting July 3rd.
Why so serious?
Well, hello and welcome back. Now, so much left to get hyped about here on Gamescom Studio Opening Night Live. Now, up next, we've got something special, an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at what goes into making the bodies hit the floor while developing the newly announced Killing Floor 3. Take a look.
With Killing Floor 3, we're kind of grounding it in a little bit more action horror. It's set in a near future with a heavy dose of dystopia behind it. So it's a little bit darker, a little bit more serious, a little bit more intense.
Body horror is a love language of mine. Seeing the brief, I got very, very excited. It's one of those jobs that you see and you're like, I was literally made to make this.
We worked internally with our concept artist, Alex Palma, to create a new concept and a new vision for what the Flesh Pound is. We were really looking for something that had a sense of body horror, but we didn't feel sympathetic towards his character. Like, it is a designed biomechanical killing machine.
Kids growing up in the 80s, I mean, we were exposed to the best stuff. Comic books, movies, all of that. That kind of very much, I think, is instilled in the genetics of this cinematic. It was always being able to tread that fine line of what we show, what we don't show, what we imply. That to me is far more interesting, is implying. And I was like, it'd be really cool if we found a comic book artist that got sequential storytelling and could do storyboards, but paint them up and make it almost like a graphic novel.
We really tried to capture these monolithic, oppressive shapes. So not only do they read in-game, but we want players to clearly understand what this creature and this character's intent is as it's attacking them.
Art direction and aesthetics was something that Neil has in his mind at the very beginning of the project. It helped us to develop overall look and feel of the trailer without wandering too much. All the assets that we see through the trailer, they're all coming from the same realm. They're all bright, hard surface elements that are slightly futuristic. Bringing the Flesh Pound in the scene, we kind of made that perfect balance and contrast between materials, because the Flesh Pound is organic and the rest is hard surface. Also, that helped us to bring more focus on the Flesh Pound.
When we're building this, we're still in the early stages of developing the game. So seeing the teaser trailer and the development of the game come hand in hand, and the kind of the identity of the two sharpen each other, it was incredibly rewarding to see.
That was an exclusive extended look at Killing Floor 3 right here on Gamescom Studio Opening Night Live. Up next, here's an exclusive look at Pharaoh the Sundered Tribes. Check it out. would you look at that? We're back, and there's been a lot of action games in this show, so let's chill out with a cool look at this cozy train game, Station to Station.
Imagine a quiet world, ready to be connected. All aboard! Through green valleys, across wild frontiers, over harsh deserts. Witness life blooming along your tracks. Relax, unwind, flourish. Bring the world to life in Station to Station. Arriving October 3rd.
All right, now just before the break, we took a look at a slew of trailers, including Station to Station, Pharaoh the Sundered Tribes, and an exclusive extended behind-the-scenes trailer for Killing Floor 3, because, you know, those games are very related to one another. I'm just kidding. The only thing those games have in common is that they're video games. So let's talk about them all, okay? How about we start with the third-person action RPG, Pharaoh the Sundered Tribes. Now this is a third-person multiplayer open-world action RPG that looks, I don't know, it looks like the Splatoon kids sprayed the Colossi and Shadow of the Colossus with their Splatoon guns, in my opinion. It's very colorful, big monsters. What is our takeaway for this one? Jada, let me start with you.
I was getting kind of Monster Hunter, Dauntless kind of vibes to it. There's a little bit of Valheim in there with the kind of the building of your own town and stuff. This one's made by Massive Damage.
Yeah.
They did Halicon 6. They did Star Renegades. I was a big fan of Star Renegades. They did a really good job with the storytelling, so I'm very excited to see how they kind of take any elements they pulled from that to put in this one. I don't think Star Renegades was a roguelike, so I don't think we're going to see a lot of those elements in this one. But again, the movement looks big. It's got like kind of like the flying you see in, like, what was it, Immortals Phoenix Rising, I believe?
Yeah, that's what I was
with
gonna
flying
say.
around.
Exactly.
Yep. And then also the grapple hooks. Kind of reminds me of the clutch claw we got from Monster Hunter. So like, it's got a lot of stuff mixed into it. So it's got me intrigued. I'm intrigued by this one.
Yeah, like I don't know. I'm also, you know, curious about like the whole building aspect of the thing, which kind of adds to just the aesthetic, and it's just beautiful. Like, I love the vibrant colors. Paris, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, right, what you're saying. I love the art style that they have for this game. Your Immortals Phoenix Rising was spot on. There was an indie game that recently came out as well called Ravenlock. This has, from a visual standpoint, this has some similarities to that as well. But yeah, I mean, it goes on the radar for me. I mean, it definitely looks interesting enough that I want to see more. I do need to see the building aspect play out more, and that would probably be the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Kat, I feel like, I don't know why, I feel like this game might be up your alley.
Well, I do like RPGs.
You like grappling.
And grappling, apparently. Yeah, really
and cute
into
and
that
colorful
one.
monsters. I don't know if they're cute, really, but
why do I have to kill them? I don't want to kill them.
You just want to tame them, make them
Yeah,
your pet, ride
I want them
around.
to be my buddies. Or at least have them fight against one another in brutal combat. I don't know, but
they should make a game about that.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I'd play that.
What would it be called?
I don't know.
Jada?
Some Monster Battler.
Monster Battler.
Monster
I
Battler.
like that. Yeah, let's go with
Monsters
that.
Are
Let's
My
patent
Friend,
that.
the video game. So I actually really liked Halcyon 6 and Star Renegades, both very good games. It reminds me a little bit of Dauntless, which is maybe not that much of a compliment,
Yes.
but that's mainly because of the aesthetic. If it wants to be better than Dauntless, I think it needs to have more depth in terms of the actual combat and the customization, because I would say Dauntless was a generally pretty good looking game, but it was not very fun to play. So when I look at this one, I think the big test is Monster Hunter is Monster Hunter. Can this game actually hit at that? That is my big question, though. I gotta say, it is quite beautiful at various points. I like the water. I like the ever since Tears of the Kingdom, I love the flying over huge distances and everything, and this game has some of that. So it's one to watch.
Who would have thought that, you know, games giving us the ability just to fly wherever we want would be a successful mechanic? Who would have guessed?
I mean, it's a vibe. Now moving along to something that's bit of a horrific vibe, I would have to say. Killing Floor 3, we have that. Lots of flesh pound showing off. Now, I've seen, gore. I've never seen gore, honestly, look so good. I've never wanted gore so badly. What do we think of Killing Floor 3? Jada, I know you're big into gore.
I am big into gore. Anytime you play a game and there's a boar that can gore you to death, it's a great game.
You just want it to rhyme.
Yeah, I just wanted to rhyme. I like to rhyme. Just let me go. Killing Floor 3 looks cool. Obviously, this is all we got was behind the scenes stuff, showing off the new Flesh Pounder enemy. That's a reoccurring enemy from the previous Killing Floor for people who aren't initiated in the Killing Floor franchise yet. This one looks to be the goriest and just most devastating looking version of it. So I am very scared and excited to have this thing chasing me down the arenas that Killing Floor is normally has me being chased around while killing things.
I'm just like, I'm looking at what we're looking at on the screen right now. I'm just like, I'm terrified. Paris, what's your experience with Killing Floor?
Yeah, I played a lot of 2, and really enjoyed it. So to see 3 coming out now, and like you said, they're just ramping up the gore factor in this. I mean, sign me up.
It's terrifying. But you want to know something that's not terrifying? Trains. Trains are not terrifying.
Depends on where you're at, your perspective.
Okay, yes.
When
if
I
it's
play
Train to Busan, yes, because there's zombies.
I was thinking like Red Dead when I tie people to the train tracks. Those people are terrified
of trains.
You
are brutal. You were doing that?
Gore. You told me I like gore.
I told you like gore.
You told me, yes.
You like gore, Jada. But no, Station to Station, it's a cozy train management sim game with voxel graphics, similar to what you've seen in Minecraft, coming out October 3rd on Steam. This game is, I would have to say, this is a vibe. Like, this is, obviously not similar to, Killing Floor 3, but I feel like you can just get lost in this. What is our takeaway from this one?
I want to play a train game.
Yeah?
I want to play it. I was saying it right when we were watching it. I go, wait, this is right up my alley. This is, like you said, it's a vibe. I totally could just get into that world and just start building out, my tracks.
Lose a whole day of your life.
Put on a hat, and then I'm just choo-chooing the whole thing.
Okay, I need to see that. I need to see the whole ensemble.
It reminds me of Momotaro Dentetsu, which is a very long-running Japanese train series. Sort of like a board game train simulator thing. And I think this might be more vibes than actual gameplay depth, but I do love the voxel look. That's a very clever approach to this, and it just looks really relaxing. Really nice.
I wouldn't count the depth out of this one because it's a management sim, so like there's going to be some level of like push and pull when it comes to like balancing your resources, balancing your money, like building your perfect ideal track for your trains to just have a good time riding around, seeing all the wildlife.
Yeah, and like you said, Kat, I think the voxel look was perfect because you want to reel in that Minecraft audience, which I am not a part of. Yes, I am. I play Minecraft.
Also, we could get some gore in this too if we.
I don't want gore. Jada, could you stop? I told you like gore. I am telling you right now, you do not like gore. Okay, I'm taking the gore away from you.
Fine.
All right. Well, you know what? We're almost out of time here, but before we wrap, I got to ask you all watching at home what your thoughts are. Let us know in the comment section down below. But for my panel, same question. What did we think? What are some of the things that we're looking forward to with the rest of Gamescom? Paris, let me start with you.
That I'm for the rest of Gamescom?
What are you looking forward to, as well as what are your final thoughts, today, opening night live?
A game that I'm looking forward to hearing more about at Gamescom would be Stalker 2. That would probably be at the top of my list for that. I would say overall for what we got out of opening night live, it was solid. This was a solid lineup of games, some good reveals, some good second and third looks at some games that we already knew about. Yeah. So again, Jeff Keighley does a great job with it, and think he knocks it out of the park again.
100%. Jada, same question.
I want to be surprised. That is the biggest thing a game can do to impress me at a conference like Gamescom is coming out of left field and just surprising me. I was not expecting this to come out. So I don't know what that surprise is, but I'm looking forward to being surprised.
What about you, Kat?
I think that we are blessed with so many amazing games right now.
100%. I agree.
It's wild. I can't keep up with all of them. And even the ones that are stalwarts that we've known for a long time. Just look, Aces? Mortal Kombat 1